I once heard a story about an American general, I believe it was Eisenhower, who said that they would they would spend all this time coming up with plans for their battles, and that they did this with the knowledge that as soon as the battle started, pretty much all of their plans were going to go out the window because so many unexpected things happen in warlike situations. And yes, I think war is very extreme, but I think we can all agree that in life in general, unexpected things happen frequently. And so he said the plan itself was not the benefit of going through the planning process. He said the benefit was doing the actual planning, because in doing it, it made their brains nimble enough to think about, okay, well, if this happens, I'll pivot this way. And then if that happens, I'll pivot this way. And that really, it was the planning that was important, not the plan itself. On today's Harness the Power of Planning episode, I talk about whether or not it's a good idea to use AI to do planning for you. And then in part 2, I talk about Keystone Habits, what they are and why they're such a powerful tool when it comes to you figuring out what works for you with self-care. On the Harness the Power of Planning episode number 97, starting now. Hi, Allegra here with Beyond Your Wildest Dreams. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday. And if you're listening to the recording, thank you for listening to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. It's an easy, free way for you to stay informed and let me know that you like what I'm doing. And also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on topics that you want me to cover. In fact, today's topic is something that was asked of me, and so I will get into that in a little bit. But as usual, I have 2 things that I'm going to talk about. The first one is something that was asked to me of a student, and the student asked me what I thought of this idea of using AI to do your planning for you. And so I'm going to talk about that in part 1 of this podcast, episode 97. Oh my gosh, I'm so close to 100. It's crazy. I have something special planned. I'm going to have a couple of guests. And so join me for the 100th episode coming up in a few weeks. But back to today's episode. So first I'm going to talk about what I think about using AI for planning. And then in the second part of the podcast, I'm going to talk about Keystone Habits, what they are, how to take advantage of them. And first, as always, though, we're going to start with pulling a card from my favorite little deck of inspiring cards here. And as always, feel free to chat in the comments. I will see them, whether or not you're watching the recording or if you're watching this live. And I'm happy to get back to you if you have any questions. So here's my little deck of cards, and let's pull from the deck. As you grow older, you'll find that the only things you regret are the things you didn't do. Zachary Scott. As you grow older, you'll find that the only things you regret are the things you didn't do. Zachary Scott. I 1,000,000% agree with this, because I mean, maybe it's because I have a good filter in terms of deciding what things not to do, because I don't feel like there have been a lot of things that I've done that I've regretted. However, I could see how, hello, Lily. I could see how it would be possible if one had made a lot of choices without a lot of forethought to regret things. However, I just want to add that caveat. So I don't feel like I've done anything in my life that is reason for regret, if you will. And definitely for me, therefore, the only regrets that I have are things that I haven't done. Like, for instance, I once had this really great opportunity to visit a historic site in Jordan, the country. It was the area of Petra. And I had an unusual opportunity because a friend of my family actually worked in the royal palace at the time. And so she was able to get me a pass to go see Petra. And I prioritized a relationship that I was having at the time because it just felt really urgent to me, and I wish I had gone to Petra. So, I absolutely agree with this comment that I pulled from my deck of cards here. As you grow older, you'll find that the only things you regret are the things you didn't do. Zachary Scott. Thank you for that reminder. So, I know as a parent, my husband and I absolutely are always telling our kid, hey, sometimes you get these amazing opportunities. And the challenge about being young is that you don't realize how rare those amazing opportunities are. Like, no one else has come out of the woodwork and said, hey, let me take you to Petra. So, what the heck was I thinking? So, when you have amazing opportunities, take advantage of them because they are really as amazing as they seem, and they don't come back around the way you think and expect them to. Take advantage of them. Okay, so topic number 1. I had a student this week send me a video of a famous personality talking about how this person has used AI to do planning for her. And she was saying, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Everyone should do this." Now, here's the thing. Planning is a skill, much like driving. You can have one of those driverless cars drive you around. But imagine if you didn't know how to drive. Would you be able to learn how to drive just by having that driverless car drive you around? No, because for the first 16 years of our lives, we have our parents drive us around and we still don't know how to drive. I would argue that that's very similar to using AI to do planning for you. You will have a plan, but you won't have learned the skill of planning. You won't have gone through the process of planning. I once heard a story about an American general, I believe it was Eisenhower, who said that they would spend all this time coming up with plans for their battles, and that they did this with the knowledge that as soon as the battle started, pretty much all of their plans were going to go out the window because so many unexpected things happen in warlike situations. And yes, I think war is very extreme, but I think we can all agree that in life in general, unexpected things happen frequently. And so he said the plan itself was not the benefit of going through the planning process. He said the benefit was doing the actual planning because in doing it, it made their brains nimble enough to think about, okay, well, if this happens, I'll pivot this way. And then if that happens, I'll pivot this way. And that really, it was the planning that was important, not the plan itself. So if you go to AI and say to it, I want to insert your goal here. Tell me what I need to do to get there. It will spit something out for you. But the process of thinking about that goal and how it fits into your life and how it fits in with your values, and is this even the way that you want to express this goal that you're interested in? You know, in our life design course, Harness the Power of Planning, we talk as much about letting go of things as we do about working towards things. Because, we grow up and we have these dreams, and sometimes the dreams are ours, and sometimes the dreams are given to us by our family, or sometimes the dreams aren't even really dreams, they're expectations put on us by other people or society. And a lot of what we talk about in our life design course is about sifting through all of these expectations that you have for yourself and figuring out which ones are really aligned with your purpose in life. Let's call it integrity based planning. I'm not just interested in helping you do more things faster. I'm interested in saying to you, okay, well, you tell me you want to do this thing, but is that really what you feel like you are here to spend this one life on. And so I've decided that I'm going to explain to people that I'm not just a productivity and time management expert, but I'm a integrity based. And by integrity, I don't mean my integrity. I mean your integrity. I mean pursuing goals that are aligned with your true self. So I think the problem with using AI to come up with a plan is that you miss out on all of that opportunity to learn and think about whether or not this goal that you've thought you've had for all this time is actually something that's aligned with your integrity. Does it help make you, the word integrity is from, if you think about integral, right? So something that's whole, an integer is a whole number. A whole food is something that is integral. It has all of its parts. So integrity-based productivity is about doing things so that you are living a life where you are as whole as you can be, expressing your full potential. So I don't think this is a worthwhile use of AI. Not to mention, by the way, I'm very concerned about the climate impacts of AI. I don't know if you're aware, but AI uses a lot of clean water. Last I heard, there wasn't endless amounts of clean water on the planet. Granted, we could get better about cleaning water, yes, but I would prefer that that clean water go to humans and not to machines, especially in this case, because in this case, all of the benefit of planning is getting missed out on by allowing AI to do the planning for you. Okay, so let's say you have this goal of writing a book and you ask AI, tell me what steps I need to take to get to writing a book. It's going to tell you things that you probably already know. Like, first, you have to write the book, then you need to get an editor, and then you need to find an agent, and then you want to find a publisher, and then blah, 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 blah. Those steps. These are not steps that are hard to find online through your own searching, not using AI. However, when you do it yourself, I would say, okay, well, let's not just talk about the steps. Let's talk about why you want to write this book and what kind of book do you want to write? And is it really a book you want to write, or is it more of a workbook? Or maybe, all of these questions that you ask yourself in the process of planning, that's what's important. The steps themselves, those can be found easily. And I would say, basically, it's just a waste of energy and clean water to use AI in this way, because you asking yourself these questions is what's important about the planning process, and you'll lose that completely if you have a computer do the thinking for you. So, part 1, that is my thoughts on using AI for planning. Part 2 of this podcast is about Keystone Habits. If you have seen our podcast before, then you know that we wrote these 4 workbooks. They're all very short. They're short on purpose because I know that I don't like it when I read a 350-page book that could have actually been 50 pages. And not just did we want these to be books, but we wanted them to be workbooks, because I know that humans learn best when you do. We don't like being talked at. It doesn't really stick in our brain in that same way as doing. And so that's why these books are all workbooks. They're all short. They're designed to be gone through in about 45 minutes to an hour. And we talk a lot about the power of habits in these books. By the way, that book is a great book, The Power of Habit. Just saying, Charles Duhigg. Good book. I don't have it I can't just pop it up as a QR code, but it's definitely in lots of places on my website and stuff. Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. Anyway, so all of our books talk about habits in some way, shape, or form, but we probably talk about it most in Rock Your Morning, because Rock Your Morning is all about helping you take care of yourself on the daily. So many studies show that the majority of people feel burnt out, And if you burnt out by, the American people feel burnt out by our daily lives, by our culture, and the percentage likelihood of being burnt out is even higher if you're a parent, even higher if you're a woman, and even higher if you're a woman of color. So I have found that one of the things that keeps me on not from getting burnt out, because I have experienced burnout before, 2.5 times to be exact. You'll have to hear my burnout stories another time. Actually, there's a whole episode on my burnout stories. If you go look at Harness the Power of Planning and type in burnout, I'm sure you'll find it. My morning ritual is a huge component of what keeps me from feeling burnt out. And the great thing about Keystone Habits is that if you don't have a morning ritual yet, if you're feeling burnt out, Keystone Habits are a great place to start because Keystone Habits have benefits way beyond just the benefit of whatever the habit is that you do. So let me explain. You take a supplement, pop, great. That's good for your health, but there's not really a trickle down benefit of it. However, Keystone Habits have these trickle down benefits that improve your life in many ways, sometimes unexpected. And one of the most studied of Keystone Habits, by the way, there's no comprehensive list of Keystone Habits. It was a term that was coined by, I forget which author it was off the top of my head, but there's no, or maybe it's from The Power of Habit. Oh, yeah, Power of Habit. That same book I was talking about, Charles Duhigg. So, Keystone Habits, he coined the phrase, but there's not a definitive list. However, most habit experts can agree that making your bed is one of the core Keystone Habits. And here's why. And by the way, making your bed first thing in the morning, not making your bed at any point in the day, making your bed first thing in the morning. And here's why. Because studies have shown that when you make your bed, it gives you this feeling of accomplishment that flows through to the rest of your day. This like, I am in charge of my world a little bit, which, is arguable. But in that moment, it just gives you a sense of control and accomplishment. You feel good about yourself. Plus, so this is where Keystone, right? So yes, you've straightened your bed. So I think the benefit that would be obvious is your room looks neater. Yes, your room looks neater because beds take up a big part of your room, probably. So your room looks neater, but the trickle down, the fact that it affects other parts of your life are things like this. It's also been shown to make you feel accomplished, to make you feel more optimistic. Optimistic, isn't that interesting? But to me, I think the most surprising benefit of making your bed has been shown that it helps to improve sleep that following night. Because in the process of unmaking your bed, you're actually signaling to your brain, it's time to wind down. It's time to recharge. I am going to go. It's sending a signal to prepare you for a good night's sleep. So that's the benefit of Keystone Habits is that they benefit you in so many aspects of your life, far beyond just the initial obvious one, such as straightening your room. So, what are some other Keystone Habits? One is dressing better. Another one is cooking from scratch, right? Because cooking from scratch will not only improve your health, but it will improve your budget because cooking from scratch is so much less expensive. Plus, it gives you a sense of accomplishment. And here's the thing I love about cooking from scratch, it feeds this creativity urge that I have. I love to be creative, and sometimes that manifests itself as drawing, sometimes it manifests itself as crocheting. And cooking also scratches that itch for me. Plus, I get the satisfaction of knowing that I'm taking care of my loved ones by cooking from scratch. So many benefits. I really love that one as well. Exercising in the morning, planning is a Keystone Habit. Probably one of my favorite Keystone Habits, because planning also gives you a sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense of having some control over your life, but it keeps your brain nimble in a really interesting way, because it just leaves you looking for opportunities to do the things that you wanna do. It also is amazing, amazing, amazing for reducing stress and anxiety, which is why part of my evening ritual is actually to look at my planner. So, I'm sitting at my desk right now, and I have my planner is here, as it always is, just open right in front of my desk. The last thing I do before I step away from my desk at night is I look at my planner, I look at everything that I have happening the next day. I set any alarms I need into my phone. Like, I had an alarm that went off this morning for doing this podcast, but that's already on autopilot because I do this every week. But I have an alarm that goes off to remind me of whatever it is that I have to do. For instance, I have an alarm for getting a haircut later today. So I set my alarms, and then I go to bed, and because I know what's happening tomorrow, there's not this anxiety of, "Oh my gosh, what's going on tomorrow? Did I forget something? Am I not prepared?" If I have a meeting or a trip planned, for instance, a couple weeks ago, I traveled up to Sacramento to speak at a conference, and I had everything ready 2 days before, because I was catching a really early flight. And so it wasn't enough to be done the night before. I needed to be done 2 nights before, so that my last day in town, I could just kind of double check, like, yes, I have my computer, I have the books I have any props I'm bringing. I had to bring, like, a laser light pointer, I had to bring my computer, I had clothes, I had to double check everything, and that way, when I went to bed that night, I could sleep soundly because I knew I was prepared. I knew it. So even though I had to get up at 4 AM to catch a flight, I actually slept completely soundly from, I don't know, 9:30 PM to whatever time I had to get up to catch that flight. Soundly, because I knew that I was prepared. So, planning, keystone habit, one of my favorites, as you know. Others are practicing gratitude, sticking to a routine, which honestly, I would consider sticking to a routine as part of planning. So there you go, Keystone Habits. So, what are the benefits of Keystone Habits? Well, it's interesting because I'm listening to a book right now called Bravey by an Olympic runner. And when she was dealing with depression, her struggle was that people kept telling her, why don't you just go back to being who you are? Why don't you just change how you feel? You used to be like this. Why can't you be like that again? And through working with a psychiatrist who is also a cognitive behavioral therapist, her breakthrough was that she realized that she couldn't just change her feelings, because her feelings were what were impacting her so much. So she needed to focus on an action. And then over time, that action started to change her brain, like literally physically changing her brain. And by changing her brain, it changed her thoughts. So the actions done repeatedly over time changed her thoughts. And then because she kept having those thoughts, and the thoughts were getting, more positive as time went by. Eventually, the thoughts changed how she felt. So a lot of people come to us wanting to pursue a morning ritual because they want to feel a certain way. They want to feel less stressed or more organized, or they want to feel healthier, or whatever it is that they're looking for. And so it's interesting because, having just been listening to this book about focusing on your actions to change how you feel, that's really what having a morning ritual is all about. That's what our book, Rock Your Morning, is all about. It's all about helping you do the actions that are going to change how you think and then change how you feel. And I always tell people when I do my self-care training, I always tell people to be gentle with yourself because when you're establishing a habit, you're literally physically changing your brain. If you think about your brain like a road, a dirt road, let's say a dirt road, and every thought you have and every activity you do is like a wheel grinding its way into the road and leaving a groove in your brain. And you just need to do the activity long enough that it creates a deep enough groove so that it changes your brain. And that just takes time. It because you're literally physically changing your brain. So focus on the action, focus on doing the action long enough so that you start to notice that you're thinking different and that you're feeling different. And I can tell you from personal experience, I used to wake up in the morning with so much anxiety, with my heart pounding because I didn't know where to start. And the reason why I thought that a morning ritual would help solve my problem was because when I was in college, I had a very I don't wanna call it regimented schedule, but I had a schedule because I had these classes, right? You signed up for classes, you have to be somewhere at a certain time. And there was a certain freedom in knowing I had to be somewhere at a certain time. When I became an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur now for like almost tw what? Almost 20 years I've been an entrepreneur. There have been times when I've had more of a schedule, like when I owned a physical store, I had to be there at a certain time, and in a way, that was very it was very freeing to know that I had to fulfill this schedule. But then there have been parts of my entrepreneurial career where I haven't had this set schedule, and so I would wake up some mornings and just feel like, "I don't know where to start," and it created a lot of anxiety. And so the thing that helped to give shape to my days because Monday through Friday, every single day of my week looks very, very different. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are very structured. Mondays and Fridays have a little bit of structure, but not as much as Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so the benefit of having a morning ritual is it helps to give structure to my days that are less structured. It also when something catastrophic happens, like my father passing away or the pandemic or the fires that recently tore through Southern California, when something catastrophic happens, having a morning ritual helps to be that anchor for you in your day. And I think it's so beneficial. Look, I have a morning ritual and an evening ritual, and I think they're both beneficial. But because my morning ritual is the start of my day, it sets the tone for the rest of my day. So, I would encourage you if right now you can only wrap your head around an evening ritual, great, but I want you to have in the back of your head, I'm going to work on a morning ritual because it's going to set the tone for my entire day. And if you don't know where to start, what I would suggest is that you start with one of these keystone habits. Start with pick a keystone. Look, I like making your bed, one, because it's so studied, two, because it's something you can do the minute you pop out of bed. So, in terms of giving yourself a win immediately, right? Just waking up and make your bed, and you're like, woohoo, I'm a winner. I think that's really beneficial. Also, the great thing about making your bed is it takes, I don't know, 10 seconds, 30 seconds if you have a lot of pillows. It takes me about 10 seconds. So it's fast. You do it first thing in the morning, and it's immediately just sets the tone for your whole day. So if you don't know where to start with making your bed because it's just a great keystone habit. If you already make your bed, kudos to you. Fantastic. I've been a lifelong bed maker, not because I knew the benefits of it, but because I just knew that I liked how pretty it looked and how calm a made bed made me feel versus a rumpled bed. So If you are already a bed maker, then pick one of the other Keystone habits. Now, if you already have something that you know you want to work on, maybe you really need to focus on hydration. I get it. That's awesome. Being hydrated is so important. Do that. But if you've already got some things on your morning ritual and you're hydrated and you're fed and you're taking your supplements, maybe consider adding in one of these other Keystone habits because it will have such wide ranging benefits in your life. And so it'll be well worth your time. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you want to listen to this again, you can always restream it wherever you're watching. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. And also, this episode will go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, episode number 97. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So amazing. And if you are ready to take your planning journey to the next level, then check out our on-demand life design course, Harness the Power of Planning. You can find that at tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. That's HPOPONDEMAND. And there you will find our 6-step process to helping you design your life in a purposeful, integrous way. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, planning makes everything easier. And if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do so. It's a way, it costs you no money and it lets me know that you're appreciating the content. And I'd love to hear if there's content that you want me to cover. Today's question about using AI for planning was sent in by a listener. I really appreciate it. And so send me your questions. I'd love to answer them on the next Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Dream wild.